Hello, hello. We are at Brands Hatch and we're in the paddock trying to figure out where our awnings are and where we can park. It's exciting. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. My camera works all over the place because I'm kind of one-handed at the moment. But yeah, it should be a really good day. That's got to be a cool feeling, being able to see the circuit as you drive in. The run out of Paddock Hill as well. So I was at Brands Hatch for the Ford Power Live event. It's this really big event that they hold at Brands Hatch where you've got Ford KAs racing, you've got some other Fords racing, some other Fords racing, and Radicals as well. There's lots of spectators as well. So it's just really cool and a pretty big event for me to have my first ever sprint race at. I had an endurance race earlier this year at Donington, but that's the only ever time I've been in a race car racing aside from this. This is the good old car. Have a little tour inside. It's all been stripped out, so it's completely empty in the back. Got our lovely racing bucket seat, steering wheel, gear stickers as you would have in a KA. Got our ignition, fire extinguisher, switches, lap timer in the corner, a really big and a really big rear view mirror. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the GoPro set up, so that's all sorted, and then we're going to move on from there. So, GoPros are done. We've got my main GoPro there with the fisheye lens that's looking out of the car. So, you see a fair bit. You don't see everything, unfortunately. And then we've got our other one. Don't look at me, camera. We've got this one here, which will look at the driver in the seat. Now, while the car itself was ready, I, as a racing driver, also have to be ready. And there's a lot of kit, there's a lot of gear that as a racing driver, you have to take with you to a circuit. So let's go through some of that now. We are about to get kitted up, so I thought I'd run you guys through everything that I change into. So we've got some nice fireproof socks here. So that's one thing. We've got fireproof trousers, fireproof top. There is a balaclava as well, but I'm not putting that on yet. Race suit. I'm gonna go get changed into that. Have a little bit of brekkie, and then yeah, sign on all of that other random stuff. So now that the car was ready, I was ready, there was one last thing to make sure we had done, which is to make sure that me and the car were not underweight. So we had to go to the weighbridge on the other side of the circuit to make sure that we were up to the minimum 950 kilogram mark. We're in the race car. We've actually gone to weigh the car, so let's quickly go find the scales. Right, here are the scales. A little bit of self-filming. Scott, do you want to grab these two? Because I'm not going to have these in the car.
Yeah. I've got to put weight in.
Yeah. Should we?
Right, you head back.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for Joe. Yeah.
Okay. So we're a little bit under, so we'll get that sorted. And then, yeah, got qualifying soon. So that's the plan. Okay, so we weren't quite 950 kilos, we were 934, 936, which meant that we had to get about 15 kilos of lead and bolt it on to the car. That way, at the end of the race, we would be certain that we were not underweight, and hey, we can move on from there.
Will, what's the prediction?
I'm thinking...
Yusuf.
So, how many cars are there out? 40 cars?
18? It's quite a small group.
18?
Yeah.
I think
Top
five.
17.
Top 5, but I ain't top 5.
Top
I
5.
think you're going to be starting in the front. You're going to have to start on an uphill, you're that far ahead.
Right, we are kicking up. You can barely see me. I've got the balaclava and everything on. I don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, we're about to go out on circuit and should be good. Now, to those of you with keen eyesight and have had your recent eye checkup, you might notice that there was a dude in the back of my car, and you're probably wondering, what? Well, that's one of my mechanics, and they are on the way with me to the assembly area, which is a bit of a trek, so instead of walking, I'm giving him a lift. At the assembly area itself, the mechanic is there just to make sure that everything with the car is okay, and to also make sure that I am fully buckled in. As a driver, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get all of your straps on tight, so the mechanic's just really helpful to have on hand for that. Qualifying was going okay. Okay, I'm completely lying. It wasn't going okay because my timing system had broken and I had no idea what lap times I was doing. I was just out there putting in laps. No idea if those laps were quick or not, and all I could do was just put in more laps and hope that I was putting in good laps. Eventually though, I found a friend. There was this quick guy who caught up to me, so I let him through, and then I tried to stick to the back of him. The slipstream at Brands Hatch was amazing, and I was gaining like a couple of tenths a lap, and because I was driving behind a quicker driver, I started driving faster as well. I was improving and I was setting better lap times. And then something even better happened. All of a sudden, on one lap, as we went past the start-finish straight, I noticed a pit board out, and I remember what it said on it. It said number 38, P5, 0.2, which meant car 38, the driver in front of me, P5, he's in P5.2. He is 0.2 seconds off pole. I had my first snippet of information as to my pace, and because when I was behind him I was going a tiny bit faster than him, I thought, okay, I'm probably in P4 or at worst P6, but we are right there. We're only 2 tenths off pole. This is really good. Eventually though, he got tired of me following him, so he decided to drop back and follow me for a bit. It was now my turn to lead the pace and put in some quick laps now that I had some fresh air. And I absolutely fluffed it. Having put a wheel in the gravel, I had knocked my confidence a little bit, and a couple of laps after that I decided to come into the pit just to have a little breakdown, get the timing fixed, and get my head into the right space for the second session of qualifying, or the second half of qualifying, if you will. So it turns out that I destroyed my tyre.
Your passenger front on that tyre had some chunks come out. I think it must have been when you came out wide out of clear race.
Yeah.
To avoid that at all costs.
But the good news is that there's a new tyre that I was able to put on the car, and by I was able to put on the car, I mean my amazing mechanics were able to put on the car for me. Even better, I got all of the information as to where I was on circuit.
What position am I in?
Fourth.
Okay, how far off first?
0.166.
Oh my god.
And I even got some amazing tips from my good old buddy and pro racing driver Will Stacey, as well as my dad.
You do a very different line going into that last corner.
Yeah, he's able to get the rear end out, and that was more than me.
Yeah. Can you, when you come off like no pedals going into carrying speed, does that make irritate at all?
I think you've just got to hustle a little bit more.
You think?
Yeah.
I've had a couple of close
Maybe a bit
shaves.
smooth.
Huh?
Maybe a bit too smooth.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm
Lose some
behind him, he just
momentum.
seems... He misses the apex. I can't be faster.
Going in is fine, it's just when you turn right into clearway,
Yeah.
you go right out, and I don't know whether that's taking off, scrubbing off speed too much.
With my confidence sky high, a brand new front tyre, and a new improved setup, I was ready to take back to the circuit and find that extra 1.5 tenths and go for pole. I was now ready to conquer Brands Hatch, once I got my wing mirror fixed anyway. I was feeling so good out on circuit, but the issue is, without a tow, I just could not improve, and I kept getting to within 1-2 tenths of my fastest lap time. I needed super slipstream. It was worth easily 3 tenths of a second, and I had the pace to go for pole. Fortunately, a few laps later, I found my buddy, Mr. 38, and I decided that, hey, I'll follow him and try to see if I could improve on my best lap time. Unfortunately though, Mr. 38 didn't want to be my buddy, and he didn't want me to follow in his slipstream, so he almost immediately let me back past. As this rather ridiculous game of cat and mouse continued, he decided to take the sensible option, come into the pit lane and end this stupidity before Formula 1 at Monza reoccurred. I no longer had a friend, and I was in desperate need of one, so I had to slow right down on the circuit and wait, and wait, and wait, and wait a little bit more until eventually I found someone. This cool looking car got past me, and he looked pretty quick. Unfortunately though, I might have backed off a bit too much, and now I was outside of the slipstream range. However, he was still in my eyesight, and it meant that I had someone to try to chase down, which should give me that slight psychological boost to maybe find another 10th a lap. And would you believe it? It did help. I was able to close him down, and with just 6 minutes remaining in the session, I was finally within slipstream distance. It was now or never. This was the lap that I had to absolutely nail. If I could get this next lap perfect and be right on his bumper at the end of the lap, this could be pole. This was my moment, and I bottled it. Turn 1 and straight into the gravel. I kept my foot in, I kept the wheels straight so I didn't roll the car. Very important. And I carried speed. I was going through the gravel trap, and for a second I thought I might be able to pull through it, but the car just didn't have the power. I wasn't carrying enough speed, and I came to a dead stop. That was it. Qualifying over. Despite my team's best efforts to get all of the gravel out of the car, as I rolled up to the grid and I was weaving a little bit, I could hear stones falling out. I was just thinking, please just let this be a final couple of stones falling out of the car, because if there's more, I might even get a mechanical flag, and that would be gutting. I'm gonna be honest, I was sat on that grid for maybe a couple of minutes, but it felt like an absolute age. But eventually, I heard the sirens go off, which signified that we were about to get underway. But I was so excited. My first race start was just around the corner. My first ever race start was just moments away, and now we had our rolling up lap. 1 lap to warm up the tyres, and by warm up the tyres, we weren't weaving. We were weaving. We were seriously chucking the car around. I got scared that the driver in front of me was going to bin it a couple of times because he was putting so much energy into the tyres. And I remembered something that I got told a while back, which is when you're warming up your tyres in a car, you need to be weaving as if you're going to vomit. You need to be feeling physically sick from just how much you're rotating the car. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't quite feeling sick because I got scared that if I spun it on the formation lap, I might actually get sick from embarrassment. So I didn't want to actually get sick, but I think I was doing a relatively decent job. The nerves were really starting to kick in now. I'd done 1 race before at Donington, but I didn't start that race. This was going to be my first ever race start, and I was so nervous that I might stall it on the start. I might miss a gear off the line, and it was just everything was playing in my head. But as we were rolling up, as the safety car pulled into the pit lane, I noticed that nobody was slowing down. And that's when I thought to myself, hang on, is this a rolling start? I don't know how, but we were less than 10 seconds away from starting the race, and I still hadn't figured out if it was a rolling start or a standing start. But judging by how everyone wasn't slowing down, I now put my head into rolling start mode. This, guys, is why you always check all of the rules and regs and how the race is functioning before the race starts. So I'm rolling up behind people and I'm thinking, okay, it's a rolling start. And now I'm starting to think in my head, do I want to be in 2nd gear for this? Or do I want to be in 3rd gear for this? What am I doing? Where is the leader going to go? And all of these thoughts start playing in my head. But eventually, we just go. I was so nervous and I was really cautious. It meant that I got overtaken round the outside through Paddock Hill Bend. But okay, I had dropped 1 position, and going into the hairpin, I didn't lose another position. And at that point I thought, okay, cautious time is over, danger time is over, it's fun time now. I got a mega run coming out of Graham Hill's Bend, and I gained 2 position. I was up to 4th place. And then going into clearways, I lost the rear. Somehow I caught it. And at that point you think, okay Milky, calmed down a bit. Tires are still a bit cold. So what do I then do? I absolutely send it into Paddock Hill on the very next lap, and I almost lose it again. With a bad exit coming out of paddock, the door was wide open, and this driver went straight up my inside. My teammate tried to follow him through, and I kind of closed the door on him. He understeered a little bit. We spoke about it. We're all chill, but he tapped my rear end, and unlike a sim race, when someone taps your rear end, you don't instantly go spinning. Pretty much nothing happened, which was quite cool, but I had dropped a position, which was not good, and I'd also made contact with my teammate. As the race started to get a little bit more feisty, I did something really, and I mean really, embarrassing. I missed the safety car flag. You can see here on the back straight that there is a safety car light up on the Digi flag. In fact, there's another one on the right hand side going into Surtees as well, but I completely missed both of them. I was so focused on the race that I did not realize that a safety car was about to be released. So, because I didn't see either of them, I went up the inside of the guy in front of me and took the position, because why not? And it was only when the driver in front really backed off I realized, hang on a second. And then I saw the red flag and I thought, okay, we need to back off here. Let the other guy back through. I was thinking that something was a little bit fishy because everyone was going a bit slower. In my defense though, those safety car boards were tiny and it's so easy to miss. In fact, the race leader missed it as well. He bombed it out of clearways. Everyone else had backed off and he had just gone for another lap. So I wasn't the only one who didn't see that safety car board. With that, we all had to stop at the finish line and wait for the race to be restarted. We all got gridded up once again, and it was time to go racing. It was probably only a few minutes, but it felt like so long to me inside the cockpit. But race number 2, or race attempt start number 2, was about to get underway, and this time I couldn't be as bad as I was on the first race start. I'm gonna be honest, this race start was not particularly good. It was pretty bad. We dropped back a bit, but critically we don't lose any positions and we are still in 5th place. I then got a really good run coming out of Graham Hill's Bend on the next lap. I got the drive and I thought, hey, let's go up the inside. But then for some reason, I lifted. I don't know why I lifted. You never lift into Surtees. But for some reason, I did, and then I braked really early going into the right-hander, which just meant that not only did I not overtake this guy, which should have been a done and dusted move, I let another driver past me. I had now lost the position, and I had dropped down to 6th place. A couple of laps later, I got another really good run out of Graham Hill's Bend, and this time I thought, right, I can't mess it up. I tuck into the slipstream, I got a good drive, and the gap just opened up for me going into clearways. Absolutely send it, and pulled off the move beautifully. We were back in it. We were in the hunt. We were starting to close into the guys up ahead. I just needed to get my head down, and then I made a mistake. A bad run through Paddock Hill meant that I had a driver on my outside, I had a driver on my inside, and then a third driver went up my inside. I had lost 3 positions in one single corner. 3 positions! Honestly, what was I doing? I had dropped down to 8th. I'd gone from 5th to 4th to 5th to 4th to 6th to 5th to 8th. This was... I was absolutely fuming in my helmet. I couldn't believe I was choking my first sprint race like this, and I was desperately trying to tell myself, stay cool, Milky Baby. Get your head down. There's still 7 or so minutes left in this race, or maybe 5 minutes. I can come back. I thought about channeling my inner Eurobeat, but I decided I didn't quite need that just yet. I managed to pull a place back going into Druid's hairpin. However, he hung it round my outside, but at this point, my tiny little balls of peanuts had grown to the size of hazelnuts, and I kept my foot in round the outside of Graham Hill's Bend to reclaim a position. I was up to 7th, and I was starting to feel good again. I got a good run coming out of Graham Hill's Bend, and, well, I thought maybe I could go for the move into Clearways, but the driver in front of me went defensive. So I moved to the outside. He then completely overshot into the corner, and that meant that I could get a really good run coming out of Clearways. I had the drive, I had the run, I had the slipstream. This was a battle for 6th. I dummied over to the left. I then switched to the inside. Up the inside, I went into Paddock Hill. And going through Paddock, we were side by side. To make it even better, there was a little bit of contact as well as we went down the hill. I can't lie, I got such an adrenaline rush from that little piece of contact. I was so scared before about little bits of contact, about damaging the car, but that little bump just felt so good. I wanted more. After clambering back up to 6th, I had a bit of clear air and I was able to hunt down 4th and 5th up ahead. The only issue was, it was now the final lap of the race. I was within striking distance, but I had to absolutely nail this lap. But for some reason, into Paddock, I just kept losing time, and this lap was no exception. I fell back by a few tenths. I started to think that I had thrown it away, which is when it happened. The driver in 4th, all on his own, lost the rear end. He went sideways into Graham's, and the driver behind him had to back off. I didn't. I got a better run, I got the drive, and this time I was on the outside, going into 30s. I kept my foot planted, hung it round the outside, and I had the inside into the final corner. Don't bottle it, don't lose the rear end. Kept it nice and tight, braked nice and early. Through Clearways we go, and we took the checkered flag in 4th position. The in-lap was such a cool experience as well. We were all waving to the spectators, they were waving back. You kind of see it on TV when you watch races, but actually doing it was kind of fun. Even though I'd only finished in 4th, it was still really, really cool, and I was just itching for race number 2. It'd been such an epic drive. Dropping down to 8th and fighting back up to 4th was just so insane. Into the pit lane, my mechanics congratulated me. We went and weighed in. We were above the weight limit by about 4 kilograms. That's it. We had done everything. P4 was secured. So, first race of the day is done. Oh my god, that was so much fun. Absolutely ridiculous. Dropped back a bit at the start, just taking a bit too cautious, like scared to damage the car and scared that there's going to be contact and all sorts, but had a race restart and I dropped down to 8th at one point, and then I was like, right, okay, head down, back up through the field, and managed to finish 4th. So that was something else. Yeah, 3 more races to go. That was good. That was really good. 1 race was down and there were 3 more races to go. Plus, I was now going to be starting in 4th instead of in 5th. This time, I knew that it was going to be a rolling start, and it went a little bit better than the previous time. Unfortunately though, my balls were still only the size of hazelnuts, and I didn't really try to fight for third. Instead, I just slotted back in fourth place, going through the opening corner. However, it did get a little bit bad because going into Druids, I went so defensive and so cautiously that a driver went right round my outside through Druid's hairpin, which has to be one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done. With him having gone round my outside, he now had the inside into Graham Hill, and he got the position, and I dropped back down to 5th place. I had just been overtaken around the outside of a hairpin. What is wrong with me, Milky? Come on! At that point, my balls evolved once more, and they grew from the size of hazelnuts to the size of chestnuts. I got a good exit coming out of the corner, and I made it 3 wide, heading into 30s with my teammate on one side of me. We managed to squeeze through down the middle, we reclaimed the position heading into clearways, and we were back up into 4th place. It was now time to hunt down the leaders, and with 2nd and 3rd battling, it only took me 2 corners to close into their fight. It was game on, and I was not waiting around. I went for the move immediately, coming out of Graham Hill, and went up to 3rd. Unfortunately though, the 46 stuck it round the outside of clearways, and he got an absolutely mega drive coming out of the corner. He was able to easily pull ahead on the start-finish straight, and as I tried to continue the battle, I then had a driver try to go up my inside into Graham Hill's bend. Thankfully though, I had the balls to hang it round the outside and continue to hold on to 4th position. But this race was now starting to become really tough. Do I try to fight for the podium positions? Do I try to defend, or do I just get my head down? All of a sudden, the guy in 2nd place started smoking going into Paddock Hill. It looked like maybe some bodywork was rubbing against his tyre and potentially a puncture was about to happen. So I started thinking, okay, this is going to be a free position. Going into the hairpin, he then had a moment, presumably due to whatever was going on with his car, and I was able to move up into 3rd place. With the first few laps of crazy battling now done, it was time for me to get my head down and try to hunt up to the leader. There was no one left for 2nd to battle with, so he had his head down as well, and all we could do was just put in the absolute best laps that were physically possible to try to hunt down the leader. I was putting in what felt like some insanely quick times, and they were really fast. But I knew that the 46 was faster than me. He was pulling away from me ever so slowly, but I could see that I was still closing into the race leader, and that was my target. At this point, I was just continuing to put in good laps and waiting for 2nd to catch up to 1st and waiting for them to battle. As soon as they started battling, I knew that I would be able to catch up to them really quickly. And battling, they started. On the very next lap, they went side by side through the opening corner. I was excited. This was my moment. As I got a better drive out of paddock, the car in front of me suddenly slowed down. I saw him going slower in front of me, but I figured that he was just on a tighter line, so he'd be going a little bit slower. And then the next thing I knew, his car was right in front of me, like it was some really bad strip dance. It was like I was getting a lap dance, his ass was that close to my face. How did I make it worse? You know what? Screw it. Screw it. We use it. Was this it? I can't keep this straight. Oh my god. Was this it? Was this the race over? The podium gone? A big hefty car fine to pay for the damages as well? But then I realised, Milky Cereal don't crash. I somehow remembered to brake and dive to the inside. 100%, I could have done it better, I could have moved earlier, I probably didn't even need to brake. But hey, I didn't hit him, and I got past him, I was through and up into 2nd place. I am taking that as a win. I started putting in some really solid laps at this point, and I was slowly catching up to the leader. I felt absolutely rapid, but whilst I had the pace to slowly close in, I didn't quite have that little extra to really get onto his bumper and go for a move. As I got closer and closer, I was feeling more and more confident. I thought I got a good run through clearways and I was sticking to him, but then the next thing I knew, third was on my inside coming out of the corner. I've got no idea. He literally did a Harry Potter apparatus, disapparatus, and appeared on my inside out of absolutely nowhere. I tried to defend him on the run to the start finish straight, but it was too late. He was already on my inside and he was ahead going into Paddock Hill. My only hope now was on the last lap of the race. I wasn't that close, but I had to go for a move. I had to sniff up the inside into clearways, but I was just too far back. I had to jump on the brakes, and that actually compromised me coming out of the corner. And the next thing I knew, my teammate was drag racing me to the line. But thankfully, we were able to just pip him by just a couple of hundredths of a second. That was a close race finish and a half, but we had done it. We had our first ever car racing podium. As I entered the pit lane, I got pointed to go to the podium area, and my team congratulated me as well.
Let's go.
I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit disheartened to lose second, but I was thrilled to be on the podium, congratulated my team, and there was even a little podium ceremony. Unfortunately though, there was no live stream, so I can't show you what was a really epic interview up on the podium, but it was an absolutely incredible moment, and I don't think I'm going to forget that for a long, long time. So, we have done race number 2, we got a nice little trophy, so managed to get third. Probably should have been second, not quite as fast as the guy who won, but we're getting there. So a few more things learned, got the third. Now just kind of take what we've learned, add on a little bit more, learning a little bit about kind of racecraft with cars, which is just completely different to what I've done before. So yeah, just need to take that into the next race. We started 5th for the first race, we finished 4th. We started 4th for the next race, finished 3rd. So start racing 3rd, 2nd, 1st, we'll see. Right, race number 3, here we go. It was time for the penultimate race of the day. I was starting from 3rd, and I knew I had pace. I had so much confidence, and I was heading into this race fully believing that I could win. As per usual, the start just really wasn't great, but critically, I hadn't lost any positions. But let's not forget, I was still struggling through clearways. I was even taking a wider line going into the corner to try to open up the corner, but it just wasn't working. No matter if I went into the corner tight, if I went in wide, if I went in the middle, if I went in hot, if I went in slow, no matter what I did, it was not working. And I was feeling the pressure. Every other part of this circuit felt fine, but clearways, for some reason, it just never felt right. I was getting so much tire complaining coming through the corner, and everyone was just pulling away from me. This one bloody corner was becoming the bane of my existence. The leaders had now started battling, and I found myself with an opportunity. I got a fantastic run coming out of Graham Hill's Bend, and I was able to pull up alongside second. I now held it full speed round the outside of Surtees, and I was on the inside into clearways, and we were up into second place. But as always, I couldn't get the run through clearways. The guy in the 46 was able to hold it round the outside of me through clearways. He got the drive and he was able to pull ahead on the start finish straight. It's just absolutely mental. So now me and the 46 are going side by side into Paddock Hill. However, I evolved once more. My balls were now no longer chestnuts, but they were acorns. We went side by side through Paddock Hill, and now I found myself with the inside heading into Druid. Nice and late on the brakes, squeeze him out on exit, and hey, I'm into second place. I started to hunt down the leader, and it was slow, it was painful, it was grueling, but I was putting in the laps, and I could see that that gap that distance between me in second and the race leader was coming down. I just needed to keep my head down and continue to put in the laps. What was even better is the guy in third knew not to battle with me. He wasn't going to compromise me, and we were closing in to the race leader. It was perfect. But I was pushing so hard, and eventually a mistake crept in. As I went into Paddock Hill, I just lost the rear end momentarily. I caught it, got back on the power, but that was all of an invitation that third needed to go up my inside into Druid's hairpin. I might have been back down to third, but I was not giving up without a fight. I knew how quick the 46 was, and I knew I had to pounce back as quickly as possible. The next corner was Graham Hill's Bend, and it was my best corner on the circuit. I set myself up to get the best run I had got all day long. I absolutely nailed the corner, and I got the perfect exit. I was able to pull up alongside the 46. I went up the inside into clearways. I pulled off the move, but as usual, my exit through clearways just was not good enough, and once again the 46 just comes sailing past me. Now I was left to try to get a good run through Paddock Hill, but unfortunately it just wasn't good enough. The 46 had the inside covered, and now I well and truly had to settle for third and just try to follow him in an attempt to hunt down the race leader. The 46 though was just too quick, and he began to pull away. Yes, I was closing into the leader, but I just didn't quite have the pace, and the 46 was not battling. He knew that if he did start battling, I would be there really quickly, and unfortunately I had to wait for the last lap of the race for these two to start battling, and I was about a second behind at this point. I was really praying that they would fight super hard, and they were. They were going side by side through turn 1, through turn 2, pretty much through turn 3 as well, but I was just too far away, and heading through the final corner, I ended up coming in third, tantalizingly close to the top 2. We had another third position, but once again, I was just missing the icing on the cake. Still a fantastic result, but I was somewhat kicking myself because I knew if I hadn't made that mistake into Paddock, I would have been able to really challenge first for the race win. But as it turns out, that little mistake cost me dearly. But with that being said, we had another podium. We were able to have another interview. I had a really good chat with first and second as well. And it was just an awesome experience all around once again. In fact, one of the best bits is that I forgot to turn my GoPro off, and the GoPro was actually able to catch my interview up on the podium. As I got ready to jump into race number 4 of the day, there was a delay and it took us a while to be able to get out onto circuit. Whilst waiting to get out onto circuit, I was able to come up with a plan and an idea on how to go faster. I even found an opportunity to run my mechanic through a technical know-how course on how to delete a file from my GoPro so that I had more space to record the race.
Try. How do I do it?
So top button.
That one.
Yeah.
It's also running low on battery as well.
No, it should have a more battery.
It might have enough. Well,
No,
oh,
that's the
it's
SD
fine.
card. It's
Never
SD
mind.
card. Yeah.
I'm reading the wrong thing.
So if you like flick up on the touch screen.
Up. Oh, I did something.
So
I think that's just been recording us.
yeah.
Us talking. Do you want me to delete
So
that one?
there should be one file that's like 5 minutes long, which is the one we just did.
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Want me
so
to
delete that.
one?
Yeah.
Eventually though, the wait got so bad, we started talking about going home.
We are the
I
last
wanna go
event
home.
of the day, aren't we?
I don't know. But I want to go home. I'm tired. Oh no,
Yeah.
there's some there's a display or something.
Oh, is there?
There's a Ford display of people.
Yeah, I can't be bothered.
I just want to go home. I'm tired.
I got a good day's work out of you, or both me and Joey did.
I now started just staring around at the car aimlessly, and that's the point where I realised a screw was missing from the steering wheel.
Oh yeah, is there not supposed to be a screw in here?
Maybe. No, the steering wheel ain't come off, so
That's a good thing.
it's a problem.
If I do
That
go in the,
that doesn't mean rip it off the race. by the way.
if I go in the gravel, it's because the steering wheel fell off.
It's still your fault.
So, just grab the thing, turn it.
Yeah, of course.
Easy.
It's zip tied. It's zip tied on.
Oh, is there?
It's zip tied on. You're fine.
What do you mean it's zip tied on? Okay, I guess in fairness, a good zip tie can't be beaten. I mean, you can use it for a steering wheel. You can use it for a good bedroom. You can use it to kidnap. I'm gonna get reported to the police. Why do I think this stuff is a good idea? Eventually, the waiting became so bad that I started singing.
Gotta push the button and let me go before I get the wrong idea again.
Oh dear God. Thankfully though, my singing was bad enough to speed up the process and we were allowed out of the assembly area and onto the circuit. One last race for the day and I had the fight in me, but on the rolling lap I saw loads of cement going into turn 1 and I started to get worried. How much grip was I going to have on the race start? Would I lose control going through turn 1? I don't know how cement is to handle on. What am I doing here? I was so nervous now going into the first lap because I just didn't know. Like, is cement, do you just ignore it? Do you go flat out on it? Do you have to be careful? Like, what? Someone tell me. As we got underway for the final race of the day, I once again bottled it. I went too slow through turn 1 on the cement and I dropped down from 3rd to 4th place. However, I was able to get my head down and I was still in 4th. I got a good run going through Paddock Hill, but for some stupid reason, I decided to poke my nose up the inside of my teammate going into the hairpin. I had to back out of the move and I lost a huge chunk of time. I was able to catch back up to the train and going through clearways, I thought I had got a decent run and stuck to the top 3. But the next thing I had to do was defend because another driver had got a good run, was trying to go up my inside. I tried to cover him off, but I was just too slow and now I had a driver on my inside on the start-finish straight. I tried to hang it round the outside of Paddock Hill Bend and he was still alongside me. I tried to hang it round the outside of the hairpin, but that is where I ultimately lost the position and now had dropped down to 5th place. I really don't know what it was, but I was struggling so much for pace and the tyres were complaining like crazy going through Paddock Hill. I think in hindsight, looking back at the footage now, my tyres might have just been dead. I might have absolutely killed them in qualifying in the first 3 races, and now I just had nothing left. I had no rubber, I had no grip left to fight with. But I don't really know, it's just kind of a thought at this point looking back at the weekend. My struggles in race 4 continued until my absolute goat of a teammate started fighting with the leader. This had now allowed me to close back in and start a 5-way fight for the race win. I was aware that I was struggling for pace, so I didn't want to sit behind. I had to go for the move straight away, and I went for it going up the inside into clearways. Unfortunately, as per usual, I just could not hack clearways, and I got a bad exit once again, and I lost the position immediately. As the race went on, I'm pretty sure I just started overdriving. I was getting so frustrated that I was slower than what I was doing in race 2, in race 3, even slower than what I was doing in race 1, that I just started pushing too hard, searching for time, making mistakes. I think in my karting experience, I know what the limit is and I know what I have to drive up to, but in a car, I didn't really know what the limit was. I was still searching for time, and the frustration was really kicking in. But my overdriving, my pushing to the max was working, and I was close enough to go for another move. This time, once again, I had a good run out of Graham Hill's Bend. I was able to get alongside going through 30s, and I went for the move up the inside into clearways. And we were side by side on the straight heading into turn 1. We went side by side through paddock, and maybe I should have squeezed him a little bit more, but I left him plenty of room, and he was able to get a better drive than me and cover the inside heading into Druid's Hairpin. So I had to settle to be in 5th, and I was falling back as well from the top 4. As I continued to push, I then had a massive moment going through Paddock Hill, and I almost lost the rear. I managed to keep it on the circuit, but that allowed another driver to try to go up my inside. I momentarily dropped down to 6th place, but I hung it round the outside of Druid's Hairpin, and I was able to reclaim 5th, going up the inside into Graham Hill's Bend. And that was it. The race was over. I finished in P5, and I was absolutely distraught. I knew I had the pace from race 2 and 3, but I just didn't know what happened. It felt so uncanny, having pace in 2 races, going out for the 4th race, and just not being as quick as what I was doing before. I had gone from fighting for the win in 2 back-to-back races to being almost unable to hold on to 5th. So, race 4 is done, and yeah, just not quite as fast as I was in the previous races. Joey was quicker. Really good race, but just lacking that little bit. So, unfortunately, only 5th. But we end the day 2/3, 4th, 5th. So I think essentially 3rd overall from the day. Yeah, really good fun. Lots to learn, lots to take away. I don't know why I was a bit slower in that final race. I felt like I was driving better. But yeah, it is what it is. So take it on the chin, move on. Good days worth of racing. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I'll see you all in whatever video I do next. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, all of that stuff, and we'll be back with more racing content very soon. We've gone and got our signatures, and now as I'm leaving the track, we get to drive on the circuit itself, heading into paddock, and I'm stuck in a traffic jam. Also, by the way, Milky cereal hat, if you think it looks cool, you can buy one using a link that I'll put somewhere up on the screen. It's going to be cool. Go and get one. It's funky. Also, it's warm and winter is coming. But yeah, that signs everything off from Brands Hatch. Just have a look at that circuit. Fun. I think I definitely was quicker at Donington, but really tough track. This really tough. So yeah, good fun. I should also be saying, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more karting content. If you like this, then leave me a comment. It makes me feel cool and boost my ego. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you all in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.